Hey folks, welcome back to part 6 of the Star Citizen timeline. When we last left off in 2546, the UPE had defeated the Devarin sovereignty and reformed into the UEE under Imperator Ivar Messa, with the Zhaan threat still looming in the east. I'd just like to add a couple of contextual bits from before Messa's ascension first, though. Back in 2545, a series of terrorist bombings in Jatta in the Davian system inflict critical damage to the biodome, causing it to collapse and kill thousands below. The public are terrified that a Devarin sleeper cell was responsible for the attack, but it's not long before advocacy investigators declare otherwise. Analysts reveal that the bomb components were Zhaan in origin. On the day of the atrocity at Jatta, Ivar Messa, then High General, had been actively campaigning for the creation of the Office of Prime Citizen. When news of the bombings finally reaches Sol, instead of immediately meeting with the tribunal, Messa meets with the press. He uses the tragedy to push his agenda. 2 months later, an explosion rips through a branch of the Trade and Development Department in Tram, Ferron. The advocacy determines that the bombs featured the same Zhaan technology used in Jatta. Over the following months, fear festers in the UPE as 4 more terrorist bombings occur, killing hundreds more. Convinced that only a strong leader can curb the attacks, citizens vote in favour of the creation of the Office of Prime Citizen, then promptly elect Ivar Messa to the position. One of his first actions as Prime Citizen is to increase the military's presence near highly populated areas as a deterrent against further attacks. Seemingly, the plan works, as no more bombings occur. There is, however, a compelling alternate explanation that was brought forward 250 years later by historian Professor Sidney Camargue, that Messa himself orchestrated the attacks. Days before the Jatta bombing, a demolition expert who had served alongside Messa in the First Devarin War, Cyrus Ishitaka, was caught in a police dragnet of local drug dealers. He was arrested and booked before being released without charges. There was no reason given for his release, only a name, Pat Mora. What Professor Camargue discovered was that Pat Mora was actually a military alias used by Adam Kor, who had led the infiltration team on Idris IV under Messa's command. While Kor could not be linked to any of the other attacks, Ishitaka was placed in 4 of the 5 systems in the days leading up to each explosion. Days after the last terrorist attack occurred, Ishitaka was found dead in a New York City alley with a laser blast to the back of the head. The local police ruled it a slam deal gone wrong, but no suspects or witnesses were ever found. The only information on the case Camargue could find was Ishitaka's autopsy, which was sealed at the time. The coroner had found something under Ishitaka's nail, traces of a rare chemical compound used in Zhaan explosives. When Messa was elected Prime Citizen, Kor suddenly re-emerged on the scene and was given a prominent position in the military. Anyway, back to 2546, and something I maybe didn't make clear about the formation of the UEE is that the newly instituted title of Imperator not only replaces the short-lived position of Prime Citizen, but also the authority of the tribunal, giving complete power to Ivar Messa. Shortly after being sworn in as Imperator, he realises that the government cartography agency is in a key position to control the knowledge of the known universe. Private mapmakers get word to shutter their operations. Map-making is nationalised, and the GCA is renamed to the Imperial Cartography Centre, or ICC. Without any private sector competition, the ICC becomes an essential agency and earns a degree of autonomy not afforded to other agencies under Messa's rule. The ICC quickly embeds itself into a number of government agencies and organisations, including, most importantly, the military. Deep space scanning stations are established to keep an eye on periline systems. This acquisition would be the first of many facets in Messa's propaganda machine that would crush dissenting voices and opinions, keeping legitimate facts that might hurt the regime from coming to light. One of the Imperator's first policies is to declare eminent domain over the newly forged empire. To legally develop or settle any parcel of land, irrespective of who discovered it, one must first apply to the Office of Land Development for permission. It soon becomes obvious that those who cultivate the favour of the government are more likely to be granted valuable land rights. Having experienced the high cost of the Devarin War firsthand, Messa institutes dozens of highly classified blacklist initiatives, proposals, and research projects dedicated to mass destruction. Dr. Thessaly Tayak's Project Vesper is envisioned as a method of weaponizing terraforming technology. The half-finished terraforming of the first planet in 368A is selected as the perfect test environment. For the next several decades, the planet is systematically terraformed and then de-terraformed, eventually transforming a planet with great potential into a desolate rock with zero atmosphere. The new UEE government floods the Idris system with credits to help rebuild cities and resettle inhabitants. Mesa forms ties with ship manufacturer Aegis Dynamics, whose Retaliator bombers had helped bring victory in the Idris system. Credits are also pumped into Keel, with massive fortifications built on Severus. Inevitably, given his newfound powers as Imperator, Mesa dismisses the lawsuit over Hadur. Earth's overcrowding had reached cataclysmic levels in the early 2500s. While the UPE had previously attempted to solve this problem following the landmark Minto vs UPE court case that nullified the government's ability to ban people from a system, this solution doesn't sit well with Mesa's controlling ways, so instead he pushes initiatives that favour expansionist industry, resulting in a terraforming boom. 2550. The Gold Horizon Extrasolar Mineral Prospecting Corporation, later just Gold Horizon, is founded as a dedicated prospecting corporation intending to take advantage of the new government's series of tax breaks for asteroid mining. The company's name actually comes straight out of Ivar Mesa's ascendancy speech. They find immediate success with the discovery of the Graknith Iode, a high concentration of titanium-bearing asteroids in the outskirts of the Terra system. The profits quickly lead to the company's establishment as an industrial concern, producing prefabricated mining stations for quick deployment in newly surveyed star systems. Interstellar claim jumpers have become ubiquitous at this point in time, taking advantage of the long lead time between corporate surveys and the actual start of large-scale mining. With Gold Horizon's prefabs, however, an entire mining operation can be carried with survey ships and deployed immediately. In 2551, Aegis honours the sacrifices made by the people of Idris with their new Idris-class frigate, opening a manufacturing facility on Locke. Mesa attends the maiden launch. By the 2560s, spurred on by the formation of the UEE, terraforming has become a popular subject. Observing that vast amounts of the economy are now devoted to supporting general expansion and terraforming projects, Gold Horizon opts to move from mining support to planetary transformation support. The result of this shift is the Gold Horizon space station, the distinctive ring-shaped platform deployed around the galaxy to house terraforming workers, their equipment, and their support systems. You've undoubtedly seen these stations before in Star Citizen artwork. As large-scale standardized terraforming equipment begins to hit the market, it is designed to transit seamlessly through the Gold Horizon stations that support the first wave of kit-based biosphere conversions. At some point after this, a Gold Horizon station is, for some reason, built in orbit of Pyro 5, under contract from Pyrotechnic Amalgamated. It is only in use for a short time, though, before being abandoned along with any hopes of earning a profit from the system. With Pyro now generally vacated by corporate interests, the station quickly falls into use as a meeting place for squatters, runaways, and black market dealmakers, earning the moniker Ruin Station, the only significant human presence in the system. Despite the dangers of the crumbling halls, the station's popularity grows along the same path as Spider, with outlaws gradually adding to the station's infrastructure. Also jumping on the terraforming bandwagon is the cheap geo-development outfit Ophion Inc., who decided that Tyrannus 2 would be the ideal place to test an experimental terraforming technique involving harnessing the energy of its orbiting moon. A combination of substandard parts, near slave labour, and dubious science result in Ophion managing to crack the mantle of the moon, splitting it into 1 million dangerous chunks. In addition to a deadly debris field that will continue to strike the planet for hundreds of years, the event superignites the terraforming machinery in orbit. Several of the stacks continue to burn unabated up until the present day, further rendering the surface of the planet worthless slag. Another failure of the era is Castor, the fourth planet in the Corel system. In an embarrassing example of humanity's hubris during the Mesa era, the decision is made to terraform Castor, a foreboding world with no immediately apparent reason for human development. Billions of credits later, the once frozen desert planet has become a frozen desert planet with a barely breathable atmosphere. Only a handful of settlements emerge on the planet, focused on deep ice mining operations. An astronomical amount of credit is poured into the ICC, companies with strong ties to the Messer regime receive massive orders for top-of-the-line scanning equipment and are granted no-bid contracts to construct deep space scanning stations. 2571. The UEES Olympus, an RSI Bengal-class carrier, enters the Null system, attempting to subjugate a growing refugee and criminal element of both human and Tevarin that have been fleeing since Messer's ascension to Imperator. The ragtag group of ships are no match for a fully armed carrier, but they have a stroke of luck. The Rear Admiral stationed aboard the Olympus is desperate to turn this simple sweep and clear mission into a boost for his career, and orders the carrier to personally pursue the refugees. The thing about large ships, though, is they really aren't designed for use in close proximity to planetary bodies. Sure enough, the Olympus gets caught in the gravity well of the planet Ashana. The surface impact presumably kills everyone on board, and the crash quickly attracts scavengers who begin to pick the ship clean. That is, until they realise that it's a more pleasant environment than the windswept caves they'd previously called home. With the Navy not dispatching another force to eliminate the wreckage, squatters move in and turn the Olympus into an outlaw town of the same name. Although Dr. Tayak is able to successfully reverse the terraforming process in 368A, her team is never able to weaponize the technology. By the time she passes away, sometime after 2572, considerable strides have been made, but not enough to make the project feasible for actual use. After the Doctor's death, the reins of Project Vesper are passed on and the work continues in the system that is now commonly referred to among Navy personnel as Tayak, which is later formalised. By the late 26th century, Magnus's second planet Borea has become home to a large-scale naval base and the source of a great deal of ship construction. As the rapid expansion of the 25th and 26th centuries begins to slow, there are fewer systems to terraform. Shubin Interstellar, a company primarily known for terraforming at this point, has a lucky break when Fulcrum Mining Associates offer a massive buyout of Shubin's assets in Centauri system. Instead, Shubin make a counter-offer to purchase Fulcrum outright, the plan being that by acquiring their mining expertise, Shubin would be able to seamlessly retrofit their terraforming holdings directly into mining ones. It ends up being a highly profitable decision, and Shubin's already impressive portfolio expands rapidly. Soon, mining-focused facilities are being constructed in systems without terraforming needs. Over time, the company becomes primarily known as a mining powerhouse. 2578. The United Times, one of the last vestiges of the newspaper conglomerates of the 20th century, merges with the Sentinel Tribune to become United Tribune, becoming the unofficial propaganda outlet of the UEE government. 2582. Solo nav jumper Carla Larry discovers a jump point in Bremen leading to the Nix system, located on the border of a dark nebula which enshrouds the orbits of all three worlds. This nebula goes on to characterize the system as it plays havoc with ship sensors, making it the perfect hiding place. Larry describes her find as lacking significant mineral deposits or logical reason to apply the expense of terraformation. She makes an attempt to name the three worlds Lou, Morgan, and Ashley, apparently after three separate romantic conquests she was pursuing. However, the UAE never recognizes these names. Soon after discovery, a routine survey reveals high-grade metals on Nix 1. The planet briefly becomes the focus of numerous mining operations. The material is shipped off to help supply the Empire's growing military might. QV Planet Services sets up mining operations in the asteroid belt between the second and third planets, known as the Glacium Ring. The largest facility is a town-sized mining settlement on the planetoid asteroid Delamar, intended to support a small population of miners and engineers, a bare-bones station outfitted with only the essentials and minimal amount of creature comforts. Unfortunately for QV, the initial system surveyors turn out to be correct. Maintaining mining operations ends up being too costly. Unable to turn a profit or even sell their rights, QV abandons their facilities in Nix rather than spend the money to dismantle the equipment. The region becomes home to a number of small asteroid-based settlements, fringe colonists seeking anything from life outside the reach of the UEE to a platform from which to engage in piracy. This ragtag bunch of undesirables would go on to characterize a counterculture in opposition to the Messers that would grow in potency over the next 200 years. At some point after this, there are also jump points found linking Nix to Virgil, Odin, Castra, and Pyra. At some point before 2587, Messer institutes mandatory military service. In 2587, naval combat pilot Lieutenant Eli Price is assigned to the UEES Virtue in Castra as part of a defensive line intended to guard against the nearby Jan Empire. Encountering signs that trade lanes have been attacked, Price discovers the jump point that the raiders have been emerging through. Traversing the jump, he finds their staging area on one of the planets. By listening to the outlaws' comms, he hears chatter not indicative of greed or malice, but of survival against an oppressive regime, and this unnerves Price, but it doesn't dissuade him from reporting the outlaws' presence. A day later, strike teams secure the new system, wiping out the inhabitants as they try to flee. Presumably, the strike team also comes across the Jean settlement on the Third World, leading to the system's addition to the Peri line under the name Oya. With Castra now thrown onto the front lines, government funding floods the system to improve defensive fortifications and military infrastructure. Castra changes from a mere staging post into a focal point of the Jean Cold War. A large orbital platform is built to support capital ships, ever ready to attack Jean space should the order be given. Mesa whips up fear of an attack via Oya to cut off civilian traffic from Castra entirely. After this, jump points are also found linking Oya with Gurzel and Hadrian, and a further system, Ialus, Jean system, is discovered via Oya. 2599. Following the completion of RSI's new ship, the 2600 Starbright, ship designer Leonard Cass, frustrated at bureaucracy within the company, leaves to start one of his own. He vows that Cass Aerospace will be different, only hiring a small team of people he trusts to do quality work at the standards he demands, and then leaving them to it. Everyone's opinion is to have equal weight, with all final decisions left to himself. Having established a dictatorship, with no other positions able to contest what becomes a hereditary monarchy, at some point between 2587 and 2603, Ivar Mesa is succeeded by a male family member, likely his son, who CIG have so far only referred to as Mesa II or Mesa II. While Ivar himself is gone, the ills of the Mesa regime have only just begun. The legacy he leaves behind is a regime that would survive for a further 200 years, justified as necessary by humanity's further military engagements with aliens.